Hello everybody, good morning to everybody. My name is Motheo Moremi. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for making time to actually come and listen as we engage and discuss important issues that affect women. I am the founder of House of Mo. As I don't know, many of you might know me from my social media platforms. And I'd like to say thank you to Pretoria News for the invite. It's quite unusual to have such a discussion, a discussion or an engagement so early in the morning on a Saturday. But I'm very happy and I appreciate the invitation. And basically today, I think, maybe many of you might have seen the poster and everything. We are going to be talking about how the role of a modern day woman differs from the role of, the impeccable woman that actually marched in 1956. This technology thing is still new to me, so I hope you guys bear with me and become patient. And I hope we'll have a very interesting and very, insightful discussion and conversation. I look forward to engaging with many of you on the platform. Now, as I think, as we all know, right, what happened in 1956, was a very, very it constitutes for a very important moment in the history of South Africa and actual women in South Africa. We know that women marched to the Union buildings in 1956 to actually go against and protest against the abusive pass laws that government at that time wanted to inflict on them. And this was women that ranged from all sorts of backgrounds and cultures coming together to stage this march at the Union buildings in central Pretoria to protest against these abusive pass laws. And it is estimated that almost 20,000 women, if not more, actually participated in this march and participated to actually protest against, this abusive, pass laws and this resistance against apartheid, And I think we can all agree, or we can all come together to say that this march actually played a very, very vital role in women becoming more visible participant in the anti-apartheid struggle. I think, this made women become more visible. And it showed even, throughout that we are strong, and women are strong. Women are actually able to tackle any tasks and able to tackle anything without violence, because that was not the mandate of the actual march, and it was no violence was inflicted at all. So I think, that was a very important time when women decided to take that stand, to stand up and actually say, we are going against this, we are resisting this apartheid system that you guys want to inflict on us. And we know that, the women marched with the sole objective, of completely going against these pass laws. And these pass laws were actually meant to restrict movement and inflict, sort of any sort of black women, or our black color, any sort of that, ensuring that we have no movement at all, we are unable to. So with that, they would be able to catch or be able to sort of trigger or track our whereabouts, as long as we would have those pass laws. And I think women were fighting for that, to say that no, you want to force us to carry these pass laws in order for you to validate our whereabouts, and we are not about that life. So we don't want that. But ultimately, I think if we are to look at the broader objective of what the protests was about, I think it was about the emancipation of women, right? I think it was the broader march and protest that took place in 1956 was for emancipation of women in at that time, you know. And I mean, even before 1956, there has been multiple attempts from women, you know, to come together and to actually say that, no, you know what, we are resisting these apartheid laws, we are resisting what you want to bring forth to us. And in 1913, that we know that, you know, Mama Charlotte Maxeke also staged a protest with other women, you know, the burning down municipalities and past laws, you know, trying to actually go against the same past laws that at a later stage they tried to inflict on women. So 1956 is not the actual time, or is not the only time where women tried to go up against the abusive past laws and, you know, the apartheid system that wanted to disadvantage, you know, women. So, but like I said, I think, you know, above and beyond everything else that women were fighting for or protesting for, we can definitely say that the broader objective of this was actually, you know, the emancipation of women. And I don't know, we cannot deny, right, or we cannot overlook the fact that yes, to a certain extent, the objective has been achieved, but are we fully there yet? No. I personally don't think so. I personally don't think we are there fully. I personally don't think that the objective of those courageous women was actually met. I don't think, I think women today are still fighting, you know, for emancipation. Women today are still trying to make their mark. Women today are still trying to penetrate wherever they can. And I think that they have made way for us. You know, those women in 1956 made way for us and ensured that, yes, we are not there yet, but we've got some sort of basis and some sort of background to actually be able to make our mark and ensure that, you know, everybody feels our presence and feels that we are here. We are here, you know. Yeah, like I said, it has not been fully achieved. You know, the role of our grandmothers and mothers, you know, has during that time is exactly the same as what the modern day woman is fighting for. You know, it's exactly the same as what the modern day woman is fighting for. And like I said, that we cannot overlook the fact that with the dawn of democracy, you know, we have achieved some of you know, the things that they wanted to achieve. And I mean, we've seen women, or we see women today occupying spaces in, you know, high positions, occupying spaces in, you know, where ordinarily it would have been deemed as that is not a place for a woman, you know. But we see women being there, and we see women you know, being the authority in companies or in places of employment, professional environments, you know, where they're able to take decisions that actually matter, you know, and decisions that actually, you know, make things happen, right? And not just those decisions that are just, you know, they don't even affect any line, or they don't even have an effect of any line of command, you know. So it's great. Some of those things are actually what, you know, keeps women going, to say that the march, 1956 was actually not such a waste. You know, it happened, and we are still trying to ensure that we go for the cause and we still fight, you know. And I mean, I've got a few stats with me. Yes, they're shocking. You know, the stats are very, very shocking. That up until today, we are in 2020, but up until today, some of the things that we are still going through are intense, you know. We've got women participating in parliament, we've got women who are in the lawmaking process to ensure that we don't go back to a time and to a place that we were, where we were disadvantaged and where it was so uncomfortable for us to speak out because we are afraid, or we are sort of, you know, prejudiced in such a way that you know, you'll be made to feel like what you are saying actually doesn't matter, you know. So, but in the midst, I think in the midst of everything that's happening and the little progress that we have made, I think we can also agree, right? We can also agree that there are still major challenges that the modern day woman faces. And as a woman, I don't want to speak in third person, you know, so I think as a woman, these also affect me. Yes, you know, we have made some sort of progress, but we are still going through a lot. And we still have, you know, a very, very, very long way to go. And I think, you know, emancipation of women is an ongoing struggle, and it's an everyday story that we actually write as South African women, as South African women, to say that we are still on this journey to wanting to become better. We are still on this journey to wanting to make a mark. We are still on this journey to wanting to cement ourselves and ensure that, you know, men and you know, especially the men in our country, or, you know, worldwide, know that women are present. You know, women are here to make a mark, and women are not just dormant as one would expect, you know. And challenges like gender equality are still very rife. Challenges like now with, you know, a social pandemic that we're actually going through, gender-based violence, it's very, very, very rife. And, you know, women are still disadvantaged in terms of policies and laws. And I think, you know, those three things are not just the only challenges that we are actually going through, but I also think that they are the main challenges that currently modern day women are experiencing. It's quite heartbreaking actually when you start talking about it. You know, the likes of gender-based violence and you know, gender equality. When you start actually thinking about it, to say that, have we fought so much for us to be still going through the same situations that we are going through? Have we fought so much, and have the women in 1956, when they were marching, fought so much for women to actually still be going through what they are going through, you know? And it's almost unfair, and it's almost, you know, like I said, very heartbreaking, that women constantly have to put up a fight, and women constantly have to make a mark, in you know, to make sure that everybody notices or realizes, oh, they are here, you know. So it's quite hurtful that we are always the ones who have to ensure that, you know, and this is visible everywhere. To constantly make sure that I'm here. Don't overlook me. Okay, I'm here, you know. And it's quite unfortunate. You know, that we're not just talking about these things as a, maybe somebody just thinks, okay, I don't know, we always talk about gender-based violence, we always talk about gender equality. We're not just talking, this is backed up by numbers. And I don't think anything that is backed up by numbers can be incorrect. This is backed up by numbers, and we can't deny, or it's obvious, that women make up 51% of the country's population, right? That is almost half of the population that we have, meaning that women are actually more than men, right? We make up half of the population, but we still remain relatively underrepresented everywhere. We still remain very relatively underrepresented everywhere, despite being just over half of, representing half of the population, right? And this is recognized in, the Constitution, which sets out the gender equality as a founding principle. But even in that instance, that doesn't help, because every employee and every production company, or every professional environment that women function in, or that we actually operate in, not even women, that everybody operates in, should have some sort of employment equity that they function in, to say that by the end of 2020 or by the end of 2025, we should have a 35% of black women representing, or black women in management position. But the question still remains, do companies actually adhere to that? And do companies actually take it seriously to say that we need to employ a certain fraction or percentage in the company to actually have women representatives, to ensure that when we look at a broader perspective of women being represented, the numbers pick up. And unfortunately, it's not everybody that actually adheres to that, or that actually has what I would say a fair representation of women in their company. And as a result, we see women trying to rather sway into entrepreneurship, to ensure that they run their own companies, they run their own things, to ensure that you don't report to somebody else, knowing that the chances of moving higher are quite slow. And ordinarily it will take a woman a bit longer to get to a higher position than our male counterparts. And these are things that sometimes we don't want to talk about, but they actually affect us, and they are visible, and they are there. It's things that we actually live with, and particularly the Women Empowerment and Gender Equality bill actually calls for a 50% representation in decision-making positions. That is the Women Empowerment and Gender Equality bill. It calls for a 50% gender equality for the women in decision-making positions, but we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go, but we'll get there. And like I mentioned earlier, that we are not going to completely shoot out everything to say that this is bad, this is bad. We're not going to overlook the small milestones and that we've actually achieved. Like they say, we celebrate every milestone. So even the small milestones that we have achieved as a country, as women, is amazing. It's amazing. And although we have made or attempted to make great strides in having a 50% representation of the modern day women today, we are not there yet. this comes with a great, deal of influence that needs to take place or needs to happen. But like I said, we're not there yet. We're still trying, and it's a constant fight. It's an everyday fight that we actually need to make sure that we deal with every single day. And if I'm just to read to you a few stats that were extracted from Stats SA, and this is in 2014. So this means 6 years ago, these were the stats that were actually extracted from Stats SA, right, in 2014. And we are in 2020 now. And it says that women made up 32% of the Supreme Court of Appeal judges. 32% of, Supreme Court of Appeal judges. And now, 32%, do you guys think we have made a significant difference? For example, 6 years since these stats were actually extracted. I don't know if we have. It'll actually be quite interesting to actually pull the current stats to see how far we've come and what the progress has been. And 31% of advocates, 30% of ambassadors, and 24% of heads of state-owned enterprises. But if we are to look at the top 40 JSE listed companies, only one company had a female CEO in 2014. Guys, we and mind you, if we are to look at 1956 to 2014, right? And this thing says that in 2014, when stats were extracted, we had, out of 40 companies, the top 40 companies that were listed on JSE, only one company actually had a female CEO. That's a serious concern. That's a serious concern. And 2014 was dawn of democracy. It was a very dawn of democracy. And it's quite, I don't want to say appalling, that's a very harsh word, but it's quite disappointing to see that or to read that in 2014, which is almost 60 years, which is almost 6 decades after women marched in 1956 for equality, that we have such kind of stats, and I think it's a call for concern, and it's a call to say that is why we are actually always fighting this never-ending battle every single day. But yeah, it's quite we acknowledge everything that has been done thus far and that women have achieved thus far. But if stats for 2014 look like that, 6 years down the line, you can only wonder how the stats actually look, how the stats actually look and what's actually happening within the spaces that, I just read out to you guys, and unfortunately, with another thing that I don't want to dwell on too much, but gender-based violence is a shocking reality for most women. Gender-based violence is a very, very sensitive topic, but it's unfortunately a shocking reality for most women in our country, and it affects almost 35% of women. It affects 35% of women worldwide. This is worldwide, and unfortunately, stats also say that 1 in 9 crimes, or 1 in 9 cases of gender-based violence are actually reported to the South African Police Services. 1 in 9. 1 in 9 cases are actually reported reported to the South African Police Services. Yeah, this is also quite heartbreaking that women are not able to actually report, because in essence this means that probably, if I'm to just take a swipe, that gender-based violence affects about 35% of women worldwide, and 1 in 9 cases are actually reported, which actually means that stats that we actually get to a certain extent might not be a true reflection or a true reality of what is actually happening, because we are then aware of only the cases that are reported. Hence they are able to make or able to deduce that only 1 in 9 cases are reported. But then in essence it also means that we're not getting a true reflection, and that way more people, or way more women are actually going through experiencing gender-based violence, right? And that is quite a concern, because you then wonder how many women are actually going through it, going through it, and it's quite painful, it's quite hurtful, but we need to soldier on. We need to ensure that we carry on and we keep the legacy, and we are not deterred in any way. I mean, we've got a lot of campaigns that are for or advocate for gender-based violence, and yes, the stats are shocking. They are a serious call for concern, but I believe we can actually get through it, and we can make it as women, and with so many inequalities that we still have, right? With so many inequalities that are still present in our country, you ask yourself if the significance of the march in 1956 still reigns in South Africa. You ask yourself if what those women were marching for and actually fought for is still feasible and is still valid in South Africa, and if people or the country as a whole actually understand the depth and the reasons why those women actually marched. Have we let down the legacies of those women that actually marched, that till today the modern day woman is still suffering? That till today the modern day woman is still suffering, and the modern day woman is still fighting for the same emancipation of women that those women fought for, that those women fought for. And this is almost 65 years later. This is almost 65 years later, that we are still fighting for that. So it's quite penny for your thoughts. it's a penny for your thoughts to actually think about it, and to say that were they just fighting and going back and forth for women today to still go through the same things and still not be emancipated in a lot of instances, and I think that the presence of women currently is visible. The presence of women currently is very, very visible, and that march was done with the sole purpose of inspiring others. And it's a story that continues every day. But it's amazing how at that time everybody was willing to join forces, to come together, to fight for a cause that would later affect all the women in South Africa, and would later still be very, very relevant to actually say that as women of South Africa in 2020 we are still fighting for this, right? And they have made a very, very vital change to the entire continent. I mean, that march was monumental, and we cannot actually overlook it, and we cannot stop thanking them and saying that you have actually paved the way for us. Yes, we are still going through a lot. We still have a lot to get through, but you have paved the way for us. And personally, I then agree that the significance of that march actually still reigns today. It still reigns today, and this annual celebration, or this annual representation to this day is still very relevant, right? And still very relevant because of the current issues that we are still facing. Still very relevant because of the current issues that we are facing. But that peacefully aggressive march, right, was able to demonstrate and definitely gave character to say that women are not violent, and women did not stop until they got what they wanted, and until they were heard, in terms of their cries. And women did not stop until these past laws were repealed. They did not stop until these past laws were repealed, and they never used violence to instigate or progress in their mission that they wanted to achieve. And till today, that's exactly how a woman still is. Women don't instigate violence. Women don't use violence to ensure that certain laws or certain things are repealed, or to get their word across, right? Women still ensure that they peacefully make sure that they are heard. Peacefully make sure that they are heard. And that is why when women protest, you will never hear of there was violence, or there was shootings, or there was it's very rare that you hear of that, because that's in our nature to actually ensure that yes, we are aggressive, but we try and maintain peace at the same time. We try and maintain peace at the same time. And that, I think, is what you call determination. That is proper determination, and that is an inner power that a woman possesses that is not found just anywhere. An inner power that a woman possesses that is not found just anywhere. And you can be rest assured that when a woman gets into a situation that puts fear, whether it's in the well-being of their children, their offspring, or their kin, then you will see, the wrath of a woman, which is what we always try and avoid. But women are naturally nurturing and ensure that, everything that is done has, peace attached to it. And in an era where women's voices were not heard, the women of South Africa demanded, this attention, and demanded this freedom, and that is something to be actually applauded for. The women, I feel like the women deserve to be applauded for that. And with the constant fight that we are fighting today, we actually deserve to be applauded, right? Because our lives are a constant fight. When we wake up, we know as a woman, it's a constant fight. You don't just wake up and do what you want as a woman and go where you want as a woman because of, the disadvantages of not being able to advance as quick as as our counterparts can. And so you wake up every day and you think to yourself, what a mission it is to actually wake up and be a woman in South Africa, right? It's quite a mission to be a woman in South Africa, and constant fight, but we try every day, you know, and we appreciate the women that are in positions of authority and positions of decision making and influence that actually ensure that we don't go back to a place where we were. So we appreciate that, and that is why the significance of the Women's March must be analyzed. And I think women once again showed that the stereotype that as a politically inept and immature woman that should be tied at home and should be a kitchen person does not apply. The stereotype that a politically inclined or immature women, you know, that should be tied to the home does not apply to the modern day women. And that is the exact evolution that we are seeing today, with women occupying space in parliament. And South Africa is actually ranked 10th in terms of women occupying parliament. And that is the evolution that we are actually going for, and that is the evolution that we are seeing and we want to see. And that is the evolution I think the women of 1956 would be so proud to actually say that we have truly paved the way, and we are happy and glad that women are still carrying that baton with pride and running with it. And so despite the challenges and despite everything that, you know, the women of today, modern day women goes through, which is exactly the same as, you know, the women of 1956 went through, that we are still trying to emancipate ourselves. I encourage women, you know, to keep occupying space and to keep ensuring that we are visible, because visibility and being present and having an influence is the most important thing, you know. And I think women are doing pretty good in that. You know, it's as a form of encouragement, you know, you call on women to say that in the era that we live in today, you cannot afford to be put at a back foot where somebody says, no, we'll deal with you tomorrow, or no, you don't know this, right? We need to keep reinventing ourselves and ensuring that we, you know, we remain relevant, to say that no matter what somebody says, I will be able to answer, or I will be able to sit in a boardroom full of men taking decisions because I am qualified for it, and because I know what I'm talking about. I know my work, you know. So we need to keep occupying space and cementing ourselves and ensuring that we are visible, and ensuring that no matter where we go, a woman must be there and a woman must be present, right? And yeah, you know, personally, I don't know, I think that is what the role of a modern day woman in today's era is as compared to the woman in 1956. Challenges are still the same, problems are still the same, we are still fighting the same battle, but we all is not lost. And the new dawn democracy has achieved a lot, you know, and we take on from that to continue with that, to continue fighting that until we find ourselves in an environment or in a country where women are equal to our counterparts and where women are represented immensely as they should be. And I think these are conversations that we should have every day, and I encourage everybody, you know, to have conversations about these. And personally, I look forward to engaging with women after this, you know, to hear what their views on this is, and what they deem is the role of modern day women as compared to those that marched in 1956. And like I mentioned earlier, thank you so much to Pretoria News for the opportunity. I appreciate it greatly. It's been an extremely great experience and a great discussion. Thank you so much for everybody that joined in and listened. If you couldn't listen, we will put this video up for you to actually just go back and listen and engage. And let's talk about it. Let's ensure that, you know, our voices are heard, and we are personally able to say that, you know, I'm a woman and I'm here. I know what I'm doing. You don't get to say that, you know, put me at a back foot as if I'm not here. So, as you know, our current Miss Universe once said that we need to take up space. We need to take up space, and that's exactly what we should do, and that's exactly what women are doing. And I wish you all a very great Saturday and a very great rest of the morning. Thank you so much for tuning in.